Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Robyn. I'm the Programs and Advocacy Manager here at Inherited Cancers Australia, and tonight we're going to continue our discussion about medically induced menopause, which we're very excited to talk to you about. Just going to bring in our guest for tonight. Soon. Great. And I do want to start, of course, by acknowledging that tonight I'm coming to you from beautiful Ngunnawal country here in Canberra, and I want to pay respects to elders past and present, and acknowledge the traditional custodians here, and also acknowledge that people tuning in are coming from different parts of Australia and the beautiful First Nations country. Beck, where are you coming from?
Hi, yes, I'm coming to you from Melbourne, and I think it's called Nam, if I remember correctly, or Gadigal country. And thank you for having me, Robyn. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. I understand how tricky it can be sometimes this time of night when you've got a young family happening. So thanks for coming on and talking to us. So I guess I'll start just with a little bit of an introduction. And many of you who kind of follow our social media will know that we've been kind of talking about medically induced menopause for probably the last kind of month or couple of months or so. And of course, in our community, we know that plenty of people go into medically induced menopause for lots of different reasons, but probably in our community, we'd be talking to the people who have either had a cancer diagnosis or people that are removing their ovaries because they've got a high risk of ovarian cancer. So, kind of what we've seen over the last couple of years is people, when they're talking about it, they're probably a little bit confused at times. They can't find the right kind of information. Sometimes people are surprised by what they experience and they kind of, I didn't know that this was going to happen and I wasn't prepared. So we kind of, and I think I said it last week in the live, that we want to try and improve things for people. We want to start talking about it properly. And last week we had a great conversation with an endocrinologist from Gene Hales, Dr. Sonia Davison, which was great. And so if people want to go back and have a listen to that conversation, you certainly can. But this week we wanted to kind of turn the tables a little bit, and we've talked about the clinical stuff, but now we want to talk about the real human impact and kind of talk to someone with some lived experience. So that's why we have invited Beck along, who's very generously said that she's going to share a little bit about her experience. So Beck works in finance and, as she said earlier, lives in Melbourne. And she's going to tell you a little bit about her family and her health history, but she has a PALB2 gene mutation, and I guess you're someone that likes making informed decisions and you're supporting people to make informed decisions, and we think you're generally a pretty nice human, and we're really grateful that you've come on tonight to kind of talk to us about your experience. So thanks, Beck.
Thank you. Oh, thanks so much. So I'm the second of 5 children, and my older sister passed away from brain cancer when she was 22. There's been a lot of cancer on my mum's side of the family. So my younger sister, when she was diagnosed when she was 31 with triple negative breast cancer, she had genetic testing, and they only had the two BRCA1 and BRCA2 on the panel when they tested her for any genetic mutations. And then 6 years later, they retested her and found that she had the PALB2 gene mutation. And that then started a whole new journey for all of us in our family, because all of my brother and my sister, all of the kids and my mum all have the mutation. So then I started looking for information.
Yeah. And obviously with PALB2 comes a risk of a few different types of cancer, and ovarian cancer included in that bunch. So I understand you sort of had some surgery to reduce your risk. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And last week, Dr. Sonia and I sort of spoke a bit about, your options. You can keep your uterus, you can have it removed, you can, remove one ovary, or you can remove just fallopian tubes. So there's lots of different things you can do. What did you do?
Yeah, so I'm 44, and I've had my 3 children. So I was done with having children. So that made my decision a little bit easier. So when I saw the specialist, the option is obviously there just to have the ovaries and the tubes out, or I could go and have the uterus and cervix out as well, which eliminates the risk of developing uterine cancer and cervical cancer, even though they're not directly linked to my gene mutation. I felt like for me, being able to eliminate even more cancers, then I was going down that path.
Yeah. And I kind of want to touch on something you've said there, like that for you, that was what you were comfortable with and your level of risk. And, you know, just to reiterate, obviously, this is not medical advice. This is just one person's experience. And yeah, also, again, reiterating that everyone makes these decisions based on the information they've got at the time and what your personal circumstances are. And that's absolutely fine. And the best decision is the one that you make informed for yourself. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I was very comfortable. I'd done a lot of research. I'd spoken to a lot of people. And ultimately they all supported me and my choice. So
yeah,
that's the main thing.
that's awesome. And this was only recently, right? Like you're very new to this
Yes.
menopause.
Very couple of months ago. Yeah. Yeah.
And how has it been for you?
Oh, look, to be honest, I've been okay. It's been okay. I was lucky my specialist and my breast specialist who I've been seeing um, for 11 years, she's been very supportive of my choices, and I had said I would really like to go on HRT, and because I'd had a bilateral preventative mastectomy a few years ago, my risk of developing breast cancer is lower, although it's not completely gone. I still have annual imaging,
Yeah.
but the risk is a lot lower. So with her support and then the support of the gynecologist, I was able to start on patches. So
Yes.
HRT, yeah, the estroderm patches.
And symptom wise, how have you found it? Like, obviously, some of these things take a little while to kick in. You know, how have you been?
I've been pretty good. I still get symptoms. So being on the HRT doesn't eliminate them completely, but it softens them. So the main things that everyone thinks about are sort of the hot flushes, night sweats, mood swings.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a lot of other things that not having your body producing estrogen has an impact on, like having really dry skin,
Yeah, right.
cognitively. Yeah, it's almost like having baby brain again.
Mm.
Yeah, and a few other little things that impact on your bone health and stuff. So you have to really look into looking after your health even more, I suppose, when you've had your ovaries removed
Mm.
prematurely.
And I think that those things are really important. You know, often they relate to things that you can't feel. You know, you can't feel your bone health, or you can't kind of feel you know, cognitively, I guess you can a little bit, but
Yeah.
you know, it is. Yeah, you're right. It's really important. It's not just about the hot flushes and you know, mood swings and stuff. Yeah. Heart health, bone health, brain health.
Mhm.
Yeah, keeping on top of that stuff. So you sound like you kind of went into you know, your surgery pretty well informed. Had you seen like a menopause specialist or someone to get information before your surgery? Like, how did you find that process actually going in and knowing what you were going to do?
I was really lucky with my gynecologist. My breast cancer specialist works alongside of her a lot and recommends and refers patients to her. So my mum had seen her a couple of years ago when she had her surgery, and I'd said to Chantel that that's who I wanted to see. And my gynecologist is also a menopause specialist. So
Ah,
she started, so she was one of the doctors who started early menopause clinic through Monash in Melbourne. So I had the best of both worlds really in one person.
yeah,
So
you
I
got
felt
lucky in
yeah,
Melbourne.
very lucky.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I did a lot of research online. Anyone who knows me knows that I'll research everything to within an inch of its life. So but I did struggle to find good Australian based research on medically induced menopause. I found a lot of information from the US, but the health systems don't always align, and same with the medications and recommendations. So that's where I was lucky to have a really good specialist.
Yeah. And why do you think, we've created these, the information with Jane Hales, obviously, for medically induced menopause. Why do you think it's really important to have specifically tailored information for that and not just early menopause or, natural menopause?
I think because the element of it is different. It's when you go into menopause naturally, it's because that's just your life cycle and everyone knows it's going to happen. It's inevitable. When you are having to make a choice to have something like this happen when you're young, when you have that choice taken off you completely, because you've been diagnosed with cancer and the next day you're going in and you're having surgery to remove these parts of your body, it has a different mental impact on you. And I think that's really important to support that side of it, with women who are going to be knowingly going into menopause overnight.
And with that, how did it feel for you? There is no lead in. There's no natural drop in hormones. It's just kind of in you go. And, the next day you're coming out and you've got these, different hormones in your body, or a different balance of hormones in your body.
Yeah. My doctor recommended to start the patches pretty much the second day. So I don't think I had a real crash, but I definitely felt different. I had a different feeling in my body overall.
Yeah, interesting. And do you think, so you've got, obviously, your other sister had breast cancer, yeah? And I don't know if you can speak on her behalf, but with her treatment, did she have treatment-induced menopause, either temporary or permanent? And do you think, have you guys sat down and compared notes about what between a medical, a surgically induced menopause or a treatment-induced menopause?
Yeah, so Lee was only 31 when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was engaged to get married, planning the wedding in Italy. Everything was all booked, and her whole world came crashing down.
Yeah.
She was able to do knowing full well with triple negative breast cancer that the chemo drug is really brutal. She was able to do one cycle to retrieve eggs before she started chemo, and then she had treatment induced menopause I was talking to her about it yesterday, and she said she doesn't know. It's hard to distinguish where the symptoms come from, if they're from the chemo or if they're from the menopause, because a lot of the symptoms are very similar. And a couple of years later, she had her first son, and then she had another baby. So she's now back in the perimenopause stage now that it's been quite a few years. So we do compare notes from that perspective.
Wow. That's a pretty incredible. I mean, it's obviously the cancer experience initially, like, that's huge for someone so young, and then lucky that she was able to have the egg retrieval, and then have kids. Like, that's just amazing.
Very lucky she was.
Yeah. And you've obviously seen our resources, and you, I'm pretty sure, did our survey, that the consumer engagement survey, to work out what kind of resources we were going to make and what consumers, or people with lived experience, do need or think they will need. Having seen some of those resources, do you think that you would ever, when you have checkups with your healthcare team, go in and say, "Oh, now I've got this wonderful resource, the questions to ask about medically induced menopause"? Do you think there's anyone there that you might ask next time you go and visit, or do you think you'll use that sheet?
Oh, look, I was so rapt to see it, because in menopause, it's not linear, like it's not the same. So you don't all of a sudden go into menopause and then it's going to be the same forever. There's all these peaks and troughs in different areas and how your body responds to it. So long term, it's interesting to see there's different treatment options that you can go ask your doctors about, but also the cost the cost of it, it's something that's ongoing. Like, I know that recently on the PBS there's been a few more medications and HRT go on there, but still we have a significant cost for annual bone scans, which is something that I now have to look into.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I feel you. We definitely, here where I am in Canberra, we have to pay for our annual bone scan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, look,
Yep.
that's something that I really feel for people who aren't in situations where they have access to funded scans like that. So I think living in a capital city, I've got a bit more of an advantage.
Yeah,
than, yeah.
quite like, you've touched on something really interesting there. I think, these resources are obviously, we're trying to give them to people so that they feel more prepared in these healthcare discussions. But it's interesting you bring up that, it's not always going to be the same. And there might be things that you'll ask at one appointment and then, maybe a year, 18 months, 2 years down the line, it might be something that, oh, this has actually come up for me. What can I change? And what's another way that I can, manage a particular thing? So yeah, it's interesting. Ups and downs, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how other people feel who are listening to the ups and downs. We've spoken a little bit about the kind of the physical symptoms of menopause. How do you feel about some of the other side of it, like your relationships, maybe your mood and emotions, and your capacity at work?
I think the physical symptoms get a lot of airtime. You see all of the funny things on Instagram. I think they're hilarious, and it's great to know that people are having the same, waking up in a full of sweat and being out in public and having a hot flush. But relationship wise, it's especially when you're in a partnership with someone who is male and can't relate, and it's hard for them because they know they can't relate. Being able to feel supported and openly share without feeling like you're being judged or there's expectations on how you should be acting. Acting in certain situations, I found that probably pretty hard to start off with. Getting the balance of the patches that I was on, it did take a few weeks. So I struggled for a couple of weeks with my mood, and I was trying really hard. Well, I thought I was trying really hard and doing really well. And so I'd worked from home for those first few weeks, and I was lucky. I was very supported. I've got a really good work life. And so I think having support and being open and having understanding employers and colleagues definitely can help. So if you're in a situation where you work with really great people, being open and asking for help, letting them know how you're feeling can go a long way.
So you've obviously had that discussion with your workplace. That's really cool. It's great that you felt comfortable to do that. I know I certainly would, and we often talk about it in our workplace, obviously, but I'm sure there are places that you would not be having those kind of discussions. So it's great that you were able to.
For sure.
Tell me, if you were 6 months ago, staring down the barrel of, the sorts of the surgery that you have just had, what would you tell 6 months ago, Beck? What would your best piece of advice be?
I would definitely find health professionals that you can trust and that you have a good relationship with. And I know this is different depending on people's circumstances. So I was in the private system. I know in the public system you don't often get to choose who you go and see, and it can be a little bit more difficult. And I don't have any experience to talk about how anyone else has had that, but I felt very safe and have a really great relationship with my breast specialist, and knowing that we can have open conversations and very raw conversations about where I'm at and where I would like to be has been very helpful. So I definitely recommend to find someone that you're comfortable with. And if you go and go to a doctor and you don't feel like they're listening to you, then there's no harm in going and getting a second opinion, or even jumping onto any of the Inherited Cancer Australia support groups and just asking for recommendations in there. I found that that's been really nice to be able to recommend health professionals to other people. And the other thing I probably would say is being really open with your family and friends and asking for help and taking help and asking for support.
Yeah, taking help. Aren't we terrible at that? Well,
yeah.
most of us are.
Yes,
yes,
yeah.
Oh, that's yeah. It sounds like you had a really well-informed and kind of well-supported experience. And I know, you've acknowledged that you went through the private system, and that is one, a great way to do it. Also, everyone doesn't have access to that, and accessing support groups where you can, like ours, if you want to jump in there, but also feeling okay to ask a question, and if you're not, you don't feel like it's your people, or you're not being listened to, like you said, it's okay to ask questions and ask for a second opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask, there's a few people kind of listening. If anyone has any questions for either Beck or myself, please feel free to jump in. And someone said, you're amazing, Beck, so that's just great. That's factual. Not so much I love it.
Oh, that's so lovely.
I do want to remind people that we created those medically induced resources in a partnership with Jane Hales, and we got all the consumer feedback and identified where there's gaps and what people with lived experience need and want. And then Jane Hales went away and with their medical experts looked at all the research, and then did all the medical stuff to make them what they are today. And they're on Jean House's website, they're on our website, so please have a look through, see if there's something there that might help you in your journey and your experience. Also, if you would like to look back on last week's Instagram live that we did with Dr. Sonia Davidson, which is another great resource for you. But yeah, I guess I just want to say thanks, Beck, for sharing openly about your experience, and we really appreciate you.
No, it's been really good. I think having one of the biggest things, I guess, is having the support groups and kind of like prompting each other to remember, oh yeah, maybe we should find a pelvic floor specialist and stuff like that too. It's like that's the feeling from the community that we have, because we are all either high risk or carry a gene mutation, which does make us a little bit different to the general population, but just feeling that support.
Yeah, absolutely right. Spot on there. Someone has mentioned keep moving forward, mindset is everything. And she's a fellow provider, someone with a high risk who's trying to avoid cancer, like everyone that's high risk. And thanks, Lise, for your encouragement as well. Thank you. Jump on our website, jump on the Jean Hales website to kind of find the resources. But thanks for listening tonight. And we'll keep the conversation going and raising awareness about medically induced menopause, because we are a bit special. Not the same as the general population, and there probably are a few differences and challenges that we need to deal with. So it's really important that this patient group is not forgotten and very much supported. So
thank you.
Thanks, Beck. Night, everyone.